Thank you ever so much for coming along today, to our funders and to all the different community groups that have joined and voluntary organisations across the constituency. For those who don't know me, I'm Chris Elmore. I'm the MP for Ogmore, and with my colleague Hugh Irranca-Davies MS, this is, I think, our fifth annual funding advice day. For the Ogmore constituency. A little bit different this year, if you couldn't guess. We normally do this in person and have quite a large event in a different part of the constituency every year. This year, obviously, it's virtual. Just to say that we're live streaming this on our Facebook page, just so we can try and get maximum information out to constituents as we can. You're all very, very welcome this morning, and it's so good to see such a good turnout, given that we're doing this slightly differently to how we normally do it. I don't want to sort of hold up the process at all, really, because it's a real focus of mine and Hugh's that the different community groups and organisations get to listen to funders, and obviously in this case there'll be a Q&A session as well after each sort of section, which we will sort of introduce a bit at a time, and that will hopefully mean that there'll be some chance for the different constituents here to put their questions through each section. If you're not able to ask the question during the Q&A, please put them in the chat, and Kath from my team will try and make sure they get picked up and fed in, and we'll also make sure that we pass on a note to the different funders as well. So we'll try our very, very best to facilitate that as much as we can. So before we get into the introductions from the different funders, I'm just going to hand over to Hugh Irranca-Davies, who will just give some opening remarks as well, and then we'll go straight into the system, into the discussion. So over to Hugh. And I know he's here, but now I can't see him. But he was here.
Thanks, Chris.
I think Hugh's Wi-Fi is.
Yeah.
Try again, Hugh. There we go.
Good afternoon, everybody. Listen, I want to lay you along to. We'll hear from most main funders in two batches. Can you hear me? Hello, Chris. Can you hear me?
We can now. I think there was a bit of a delay on your Wi-Fi. I think then, Hugh, but I think we're okay. We can hear you now.
Yeah. Dad.
I can't hear Hugh, so rather than delaying any further, shall we move on and do the first funder that's going to give us some introductions is the National Lottery Fund.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah, great. Hi, my name is Ellen Davis, and I'm the funding officer, or one of the funding officers for the National Lottery Community Fund that works in the Bridgend area. I'm just going to take a few minutes to tell you a bit about what we do. So the National Lottery Community Fund is the largest community funder in the UK. In Wales, we annually award approximately £30 million, which is about 800 grants, and those awards range between £300 and £500,000. Over 80% of our grants are for less than £10,000, and all our awards are made possible thanks to people who play the National Lottery. One of the strengths of the fund is our presence across Wales at a local level via our regional funding model. We put people and communities centre stage in what we do. We have funding teams who listen and collaborate with people to bring their ambitions to life. Myself and two other colleagues work in a patch that covers the Bridgend County, and our funding is shaped and delivered according to the unique needs of the locality. And we believe that when people are in the lead, communities thrive. Since March last year, we've prioritised supporting communities through the pandemic and have awarded around £44 million over 1,100 projects across Wales, the vast majority of which have helped respond to the crisis. This includes projects such as a £78,000 grant to special families in Maesteg to support communities through the pandemic, running errands and providing wellbeing checks for those who were unable to leave their homes. We tend to fund projects that are related to community, education, health and environment. And this means that we've funded such projects as K-Rai Men's Shed to create space at their building for workshops to help tackle social isolation and improve wellbeing for their members. This does tend to mean that we don't fund projects involving sports, arts and heritage, and these are the responsibility of other National Lottery funders, which you'll hear from later. But we can support some of these elements within other projects when they're used as tools for social engagement. We currently have 2 open programmes. So there's the National Lottery Awards for All, which is our simple small grants programme that offers up to £10,000 for projects lasting up to 12 months. In addition to our COVID-19 related priorities, which I'll go through in a moment, we also look to support projects that meet at least one of our usual funding priorities for the programme, which are bringing people together to build strong relationships in and across communities, improve the places and spaces that matter to communities, and enable more people to fulfil their potential by working to address issues at the earliest possible stage. It's important to us that you involve your community in the design, development and delivery of your activities. We believe this will help your project be better supported by the energy and strengths that exists in your community and is more likely to be successful as a result. People and Places starts where the National Lottery Awards for All finishes. So for the People and Places programme, we offer grants from £10,001 up to £500,000 for a project lasting up to 5 years. And these have 3 things that we expect each project to have. So that we expect them to be people-led, so that similar to the National Lottery Awards for All, we expect you to meaningfully involve your community at all stages, to be connected, to have an understanding of what others are doing in the locality, and to have working relationships with relevant groups that complement each other, and that you're strength-based, so that you make the most and build on the strengths and experiences that already exist within your community. As mentioned, across all programmes, we're currently prioritising COVID-19 related projects, meaning we'll prioritise applications from projects that will be supporting organisations to adapt or diversify to respond to the new and future challenges, supporting communities adversely affected by COVID-19, and supporting communities and organisations to become more resilient after the crisis. We are a bilingual organisation, so everything from guidance notes to speaking to funding officers to the end of grant forms are available in both Welsh and English. And our contact details are available, and we're happy to arrange any follow-up sessions with anybody in the community who want to discuss any project ideas. So thank you very much, and thanks Chris and the team for the invite today.
Thank you ever so much. That's really, really helpful. We're going to hand over to, just to say, we'll obviously do this block of 5 funders, then there'll be a Q&A for everybody at the end of that block, okay? So there will be a chance for questions, and we'll do our best either to put virtual hands up in the chat or to put something in the chat box, or obviously just wave at me and I will try and see as many people as I can. So we're going to hand over now to the Arts Council for Wales.
Oh, diolch yn fawr am y gwahoddiad a croeso. Thank you very much for the invitation. My name's Sian from the Arts Council of Wales. I'm one of 5 information officers in our team. If you'll excuse me, I've got a second screen to my left. So if I'm not looking at you, it's because I'm reading some notes off the screen to my left here. So very briefly, the Arts Council is the official body that funds and develops the arts in Wales. The funding that we distribute comes both from the National Lottery and also from the Welsh Government. And I think along with our fellow lottery distributors and so many other people out there, I think it's fair to say that the past year has been quite different from every other year that we've had as far as distributing our funds has gone. Our focus since March last year has very much been on supporting the arts, both individual artists, but also those organisations that have been so hit by the circumstances. And many of those are still not able to operate and function at full capacity. So obviously we're still sort of doing a lot of work to support those. On the other hand, I think certainly over the past 2 or 3 months, we're beginning to see signs of life again. And we've begun to reopen some of our more regular funding programmes. So I'm just going to touch today on 3 or 4 of those that I think will be of particular interest to people here today. We do
Sian, just to say you've muted, I think, and we're not sure how that's happened. You might need to unmute yourself. I can see there.
Okay, where did you lose me?
Literally, as I think, right, almost at the beginning of that opening set, not at the very beginning now, but just the 2 themes you said, 2 schemes that would interest people. Then you cut off, I think.
Okay,
so at that point.
Hopefully you heard me say that we've begun to reopen our general programmes again. So I'm just going to touch on a couple of the programmes that I think will be of interest to people here today. We do have some very specific targeted programmes, but I'm just going to speak a little bit more generally today. And I think, as Ellen said, we have priorities which very much focus on activities in communities and also equalities as well. We want to make the arts accessible and available across the board, no matter who you are, no matter which community you come from within Wales. We look at very much about the capability and resilience of the sector, and as I mentioned, that's been a lot of the focus of our work of the last year, and also about collaboration and partnerships. And again, I think that matches what Ellen was just talking about. So just to talk about a couple of the schemes that are available, just very top level. Our main lottery funding programmes are called Create. That's the branding that's behind those programmes. The lottery programmes are there both for individual artists, professionals working in the arts and organisations. And we're pretty open-minded about the range of activities, the sort of projects that we can fund through the Create programme. All we ask is that the programmes are a good match with our priorities. We have small grants between 500 and just under £10,000. And those grants we assess on a rolling basis, so you can apply at any time for those. We also have large grants of over £10,000 up to £50,000. We have currently 4 deadlines a year for those. We are very happy to talk to you, both ourselves in the information team, where we'll talk about eligibility and also technical help. We've got a new grants funding portal that we're all getting used to. So we're very happy to help with that. We also have a team of development officers who are happy to talk about specific projects and making the best effort you can to apply for a grant. So those grants, I would say, are very much focused on professionals working in the creative sector and organisations. We can accept applications perhaps for some community activities, maybe for drama activities, choirs who want to, involve the community. So talk to us about those if you've got any ideas on that front. So Create is our main lottery fund. The other fund that is literally reopening as we speak is a programme called Night Out, which may be familiar to some of you. Night Out is a scheme that is really about enabling community groups to bring professional performers into your locality, into your community or village hall and other non-traditional venues, if you like. We can help you underwrite some of the costs for you with those, minimise the financial risk. We can also put you in touch with performers who you know, are looking to perform in smaller community venues. We realise that at the moment that we're all taking baby steps on that. The social distancing regulations are sort of quite limiting at the moment. But as things progress, as things open up again, the night out scheme is an excellent one if you've got ideas in your specific communities. The other programme that might be of interest, or programmes, are schemes within our creative learning department, which are basically aimed at schools. I'm sure many of you've got connections with schools, either as parents, staff, governors maybe. At the moment, we've just closed a scheme for schools to apply for grants for funding for this next half term until the school holidays. But we're hoping that in the autumn, we'll be able to reopen our Go and See scheme, which is always really popular. It's a way for us to support schools to go and have an arts experience, whether it's in a theatre or a gallery. Schools have been able in the past to apply for up to £1,000 to pay for a bus to go, or for supply teaching to fill the gap in that area. That scheme isn't reopened yet, but we are hoping that we'll be able to open that again in the summer term. And that, as I say, is a really, really popular scheme. And then finally, I just wanted to touch on the collector plan, which might be of interest to you as individuals. It's an interest-free loan scheme that we can offer to help individuals buy contemporary arts and crafts. So not only is it helping you as individuals make that purchase, but obviously it's also helping the galleries and the artists whose work is on sale as well. So that's up and running again now, I'm very pleased to say. So that's a real sort of really top level idea of the sorts of funds that we've got open. What I'll do, I know that Kath has sent you all a very brief summary and contact details of for us, but I'll send her a bit more information which she can circulate, or you can ask her for if that's of interest. And it's got particular contact details, or the specific contact details for those programmes that I've mentioned. And happy to take any questions after the next couple of speakers.
That's lovely. Thank you ever so much. Thank you ever so much, Sian. We're going to pass over to the team. I think because there's more than one from Sports Wales, so you're very welcome, and thank you again for coming along this morning.
Hi everyone. So it's Richard and Annalise here from Sport Wales. So we're going to just quickly talk to you guys about our grant scheme. We won't keep you guys long, just fire the questions at us later. At the moment, we've got two schemes open at the moment. One is far more relevant than the other. One is Protect, which is basically those sports organisations and clubs that can't return yet and have fixed costs such as utilities, rent, things like that. They're bills that they have to pay, but they can't pay at the moment because they haven't gone back yet. Although, as I said, that's less relevant now, as thankfully most sports have returned now. And then the second stream we've got is Progress, which is the main aim is to get people back playing sport, back being active. And I'll hand over to Annalise to go into a bit more detail about what Progress and the Be Active Wales Fund is all about.
Yeah, so the Active Wales Fund, we actually developed it right at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. So as Rich said, we primarily at that point focused on protecting clubs across Wales and ensuring they could pay the different types of bills and any outstanding costs they needed to ensure that they didn't go under and they could be able to come back at this point now. We're moving on into the Progress scheme, but just to touch, the funding that's available is joint from National Lottery and also Welsh Government, so we've got a mixture of both. Our Progress scheme then is we're hoping now to push clubs back into playing, be able to protect them. They can come in for different things like their PPE or anything that could make the club innovative or more sustainable in the long term. we could go into all the different bits that we potentially could fund, but we'd probably be here for another 45 minutes or an hour. So it's probably best that we just jump off, let everyone have a chat, and then any questions you've got, send them over to us, and hopefully we can help you with eligibility and things like that.
Lovely. Thank you both very much. Really appreciate it. And we're going to hand over. There's two left in this little section: National Lottery Heritage Fund, and then the National Lottery Heritage Fund Environment. So Heritage Lottery Fund first.
Yes, that will be me. Hi, I'm Catherine, and I'm an engagement manager for the National Lottery Heritage Fund in Wales. Previously, I worked for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Wales, and I'm a previous grantee working on heritage projects with young people across Wales. The National Lottery Heritage Fund is the largest dedicated funder of heritage in the UK, and we believe that understanding, valuing and sharing our heritage brings people together, inspires pride in communities and boosts investment in local economies. And we distribute national lottery grants of between 3,000 to 5 million, funding projects that sustain and transform Wales's heritage. So what do we mean by heritage? Heritage can be anything from the past that you value and want to pass on to future generations. Heritage can mean different things to different people. And as a guide, it could include nature, landscapes, cultural traditions and memories, historic buildings, monuments, environments, collections and archives, and much more. We fund organisations and community groups, not-for-profits, charities, trusts, local authorities, community councils, and in some circumstances, private owners of heritage when the public benefit outweighs the private gain. And we ask applicants to provide a copy of their governing documents and latest set of audited accounts. So currently, we have 3 funding levels: small, medium, and large grants. If applying for our small grant between 3,000 and 10,000, you can proceed straight to application form on our website. We don't offer pre-app advice for this level of funding, but if you'd like to have a quick chat, you're welcome to contact the engagement team, myself, before submitting. I'll share our contact details in the chat later. I do live next to a train, so I do apologise if you heard that.
I wonder what was happening. I thought something was going wrong with the equipment. Sorry, Catherine, you carry on.
No worries. I have to have the window open, otherwise I think I'll die of heat exhaustion. For medium grants between 10,000 and 250,000, we offer pre-application advice via the project inquiry form on the portal of our website. You can submit your project idea along with an estimated budget and will then reply with feedback, either encouraging you to move forward with an application or in some circumstances discouraging the idea as presented. As it's a competitive process that can be time consuming and costly for applicants, we believe it's important to provide honest and constructive feedback. And for this level of funding, you're required to add certain supporting documents with your application, such as a project plan detailing what and who and when. And you can find a project template on our website. If you plan on employing somebody as part of the project, a job description is also required, and the same with any procurement of services, such as capital works or consultant fees. A brief for the work will also be required. And we expect projects for this level of funding to be developed and ready to deliver. So if you intend working with new partners to reach new audiences, for instance, then letters of support should be added, providing details on the support being offered. And if working with schools or community groups on outreach activities, letters of support noting their eagerness to be part of the project should also be included. And you can apply at any time for funding between 3,000 and 250,000, and will receive a decision within 8 to 10 weeks. Now, the process for our larger applications for over 250,000 is a little different. At this grant level, all interested applicants must first send us an expression of interest. And if you are then invited to apply, your application will go through a 2-stage process: development and delivery phase. There's guidance on our website that goes into more detail on this particular level of funding, and there are quarterly application deadlines and the dates are listed on the website. So all our funding levels require that you meet our mandatory outcome. A wider range of people will be involved in heritage. We also want community engagement throughout the project. Therefore, we do not fund capital-only projects. Now, that was a very quick overview of the process and funding levels for the National Lottery Grants for Heritage. And there is more detail on our website under the funding tab, and I'll put a link to it in the chat. But myself and my colleague Ellen are also doing virtual one-to-one sessions throughout the year. So please keep an eye on our social media for our upcoming slots. And just to add at the end, we're a bilingual team, and we are able to offer advice and guidance through the medium of Welsh or English. And that's it from me. Diolch, thank you. And I will now pass on to Jason, my colleague in the environment grants.
Lovely, thank you, Catherine. So over to Jason.
Diolch, Catherine. Chris, Pnawn da pawb. Afternoon, everybody. I'm Jason Jones, also from the National Lottery Heritage Fund, but particularly talking about our environmental grants today. Huge pleasure to be here. All my best genes are from Gilfach, so know the area a little well. So the projects that we have to offer are environmental grants. And we work in partnership with Welsh Government to offer these. So it's a joint fund between National Lottery Heritage Fund and Welsh Government. The grants are forming part of Welsh Government's commitment to halt and reverse the decline in nature in Wales and to grow the environment for future generations. And we know from announcements this week how important that is. At the National Lottery Heritage Fund, we're involved because funding landscapes and nature is one of our key funding priorities in Wales. We have two schemes. One is Local Places for Nature, and two is Community Woodlands. For both of those schemes, you can ask for grants of between £10,000 and £250,000, and it's for 100% of the funding. So you don't need to provide any match funding for our schemes. The programs are open to non-for-profit organisations of any kind, so could be local authorities, councils, public bodies, as well as community groups. And unlike what Catherine was saying on our other programs, this program is predominantly capital, so it will pay for purchasing land, it will pay for buying machinery, tools, and so on. But the focus should always be about nature and restoring and enhancing nature. But similarly to our other programs, we're also about engaging local communities to get involved because we want to attract a wider range of people into nature as well. You can apply at any time. There's no deadlines for this, and applicants will know within 8 weeks if they're successful. So I'm going to focus mainly on Local Places for Nature. This is about projects that look into acquire, restore, and enhance nature that can be seen from the doorstep. So it's places where you live, where you work, where you're waiting for a bus, where you're socialising, or where you're exercising. And these projects should be about stopping the decline in nature. So perhaps removing contamination, removing litter, removing invasive and non-native species, stopping use of pesticides, and so on. It's about growing nature, increasing biodiversity. So we're looking for projects that will create wildflower meadows, verges, hedgerows, community growing projects. So we're looking to fund allotments, orchards, community orchards, that sort of thing. And we're looking to increase urban trees, tiny forests, and green roofs as well that we can fund. Anything that will increase homes for our pollinators, our birds, our bats, our bugs, hedgehogs, and so on. And also projects that'll change practices. So it could be changing mowing regimes, it could be using peat-free compost, sourcing products locally is really important for us, providing water refill stations to avoid use of single-use plastics. And it can be about erecting fences to protect and enhance the areas of nature. So that's Local Places for Nature. Just very briefly, we also have Community Woodlands as well, which is part of Welsh Government's aspiration to have a National Forest of Wales. And with this scheme, we can fund projects that will create new woodlands, create new woodland corridors, linking existing woodlands that are available, could be improving to existing woodlands, such as thinning, maintaining trees, installing footpaths, connectivity to hedgerows and meadows. But all of these things have to be accessible to the public and to have community involvement. There's support for both programs. For Community Woodlands, support's available from Llais y Goedwig. From Local Places for Nature, support's available from your local nature partnership in Ogmore. And what we'll fund is we'll fund trees, machinery, tools, the training of use in those things. We can fund land, We can fund the cost of preparing a site, removing species, the costs of labour. We can't fund organisational costs or full cost recovery, but you can spend 10% on project planning, and up to 30% of the spend can be on activity costs. So we will fund project promotion, volunteer expenses and events and so on. So I'm also at the National Lottery Heritage Fund. Email us on natur@heritagefund.org.uk and you'll come straight through to our environmental team. But I'm sure you'll have my details later as well. So diolch everybody, thank you. And I should mention, we're all talking to a couple of organisations in your area, organisation in Bryn Cethin at the moment, and also Gilvercoch Community Association. We're talking with them as well. So really keen to see more projects in the Ogmore area. And thanks for your time.
Thank you, Jason. That's really appreciated. You see from the first round of funders there that we've got a real breadth of people here today, you know, offering funding in some cases, but supporting others, and different types of funding as well. So it really is covering a huge spectrum of what's available out there for different groups right across the constituency. So we've already got one person that wants to ask a question, which is Claire Hyatt. But if anyone else has got any other questions they want to put, either raise your virtual hand, which is in the toolbar you'll see, or if you pop it in the chat, and we'll make sure we call you that either way, whichever way works for you. So over to Claire, please, to ask a question.
Diolch, Planta. I'm a freelance artist and I've had ACW funding through organisations before. I've never actually applied on a personal basis. So am I right in understanding that I've got an idea for a project here up in the Ogmore Valley, and I'll be working with one, possibly two other artists. So would we need the backing of an organisation, or can we sort of apply for the funding and control it ourselves? We've had a meeting with the local bowls club, and they're quite willing to sort of rent us the room for workshops and exhibitions and things like that. But we were gonna hopefully use them as a backup for applying for a small amount from the Community Wind Farm Fund, because that's open until September. But seeing as there's a couple of us working on this, you know, we're going to need a bigger chunk. So you know, my immediate thought was ACW. So you know, how do I go about applying as an individual, because it's not something I've ever done before?
No, I think I'm right in saying that of the lottery distributors, we're the only ones who will fund individuals. I don't know whether I got that wrong or right. But yes, certainly, Claire, you can apply to us as an individual, and working with other individuals is absolutely fine. What you need to do is to factor that into your budget. Yeah. So make sure that everybody's being paid fairly. And actually, one of the things that we've developed over the past year in particular is the requirement for applicants to us to demonstrate that they're working to the sort of principles of what the Welsh Government has called the cultural contract, which is a very broad term for making sure that artists and organisations earn a fair, or one of the principles is making sure that you're paid fairly. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely, you or one of the other artists could apply to us, but working as a collective, if you like, or a group of individuals, you just factor that into the overall project budget. Okay. And
so, where do I start, basically?
Yeah, no, that's fine. So there's information about the Create funds that I mentioned earlier on our website. I'll drop the address in the chat, but it's arts.wales, so it's really easy. And what we'll do, that I'll also give you an email address where you can contact our general team. What we can do then is, once you've got you past the initial setup stages on the portal and the eligibility, we can put you in touch with a development officer closer to home, and they can work with you on developing your project. Brilliant. So yeah, we're happy to support individuals and groups of individuals who are not set up as an organisation.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Lovely. Thank you, Claire and Sian. So the next, I've managed to mute myself. So the next, thank you, Claire, and thank you, Sian. Next question is from Alex, which is the Baby Clothes and Swap Shop. Who's got a question to the Lottery Fund. Over to you, Alex.
Hi. Firstly, I have to excuse my baby who's sat next to me making all sorts of noises. A question for Ellen, really. So, I think that we're a very new project, new charity. Well, we're not even a charity yet. We're still pending our approval, our application, and that's causing us no end of problems, really. So we've been running pre-COVID, but we need to adapt and change and put lots of things in place for us to be able to run properly post-COVID then, I suppose. And we were hoping that you guys could help us with that, with the funding. But we can't we can't open a bank account. So we can't get any funding at the moment. So basically, Barvo suggested that we look at asking funders if it would be possible to put the applications in now, and then the funds be held until our registration is complete, and we can then open a bank account, hopefully, as long as the banks are taking on new customers again. Is that something that you guys would do, or?
No, unfortunately, we would need a bank account to be able to process an application for it to be deemed as successful. But you can definitely chat to us about an idea you'd have for a project, and to kind of be guided down what kind of level of funding that you'd want to have. So whether it be our small grants up to £10,000 or a bigger People and Places grant. Yeah, what I would say is that we fund projects and not just organisational costs. So that would be something to consider as well. But if you have a specific project that involves the community, then we'd definitely be more than happy to speak to you about developing those ideas. With regard to banks, I know that a lot of people are having quite a lot of problems setting them up at the moment. And if you would like to have a list of some of the banks that we do accept, because some of them we don't, then I'll obviously be able to send that to you and have a chat to you about that again. But generally we ask for banks that have the functionality to have 2 signatories on the accounts, so that no one person has significant control over the bank accounts and the funds that are in there. Okay. But yeah, sorry about that. I hope that sort of answers your question. If you do want to have another kind of project chat about your project specifically, then just let me know and we can set that up.
I'd love to do that. That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, no problem. I'll send my information through, so you'll have that just to get in touch with me directly.
Thank you very much.
Lovely, thank you, Alex, and good luck with it. And obviously, if you and I can help at any point, please give us a shout, and we're very happy to do what we can. The next person with a question is Leighton Neer. I hope I pronounced your surname correctly.
Yes.
There we go. Lovely. Hand over to you, Leighton.
Right. My name is Leighton Nye. I'm a trustee of Pontycymmer Bowls Club at the moment. We've got a project that when we took over the building and the ground of Pontycymmer Bowls Club, we unfortunately got a bit of a white elephant as the toilets, and there's no changing rooms there. The toilets have been there since 1930, need to be knocked down and rebuilt. Plus we want to encourage disability people to play and tennis and bowls. But there's no changing rooms there either. So we got the room and we got the plans go through. We just need the funding to get it going. But it's not only for bowls and tennis, it's also for the local youth club, boys clubs, football or rugby, or anybody who wants to use the spare piece of land that we got at the bottom for changing facilities and toilets, obviously. We can't go ahead and encourage schools to come to our place because there's no changing rooms. And that is what we are trying to build at the moment to help all the communities in the Garrow Valley. Nothing has been built in the Garrow Valley since the mines went in '86. So this will be the first thing that's ever we're trying to get going. I don't know who can help me. We've got a few thousand, but we need quite a lot more. We're talking at least 170 to get the first project up and running. There are another 2 projects that will go after we get this built. So if anybody out there that could give us any advice or funding, I'd be most appreciated.
Who wants to start answering, Leighton? Who wants to go first?
We don't mind jumping in, Chris, from Sport
Lovely,
Wales.
great. No, that's brilliant. Thanks, Richard. Thanks, Annalise. You carry on.
No worries. Hi, Leighton, how's it going?
I have gone to you. I spoke to Claire and ages ago when we first done this project, and she did say about funding and what have you, but unfortunately I lost all the contact numbers and everything, so I'm glad that you were here on this funding.
No worries. We'll chuck details in the chat as well for you.
All right, cheers.
Basically, in terms of the changing rooms and the toilets and things like that, from a Sport Wales perspective, at the moment, it's not something we can do because we focus mainly on the things that directly impact on the sport in question taking place. But the one thing I would say is just watch this space, because we're in the middle of looking and reviewing our schemes, and hopefully we'll be launching something new in the next couple of months that might be able to help you. We probably wouldn't be able to help in terms of the full amount, because obviously 170k is quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
But it's something that we could certainly look at. So my best advice is just to watch this space, keep looking on our website over the next couple of months, because hopefully we will be launching something quite exciting that should be able to help you out there.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
Ellen, not to put you on the spot, but is there anything you could think that would be helpful, particularly with sort of some of the capital grants that I know you do quite a bit of work with? If not, that's fine, but just thinking out loud there.
Yeah, no worries. We do fund capital builds. The 170,000 would go into our large grant scheme, which is a 2-stage project that you'd have to go through. If you could provide kind of evidence that the buildings were to be used like the community wanted those buildings ahead of time.
I've got all that. I've got all that. I've got all the funding, the building plans all through. We just need the funding now to go ahead and build it. I've got loads of people that are interested in using that, plus schools as well. So it's just a matter of getting the funding and starting the project.
Yeah, I'd say if we could. If I know that Sport Wales said they couldn't do the full amount, but we could come in with some match funding for you. So maybe a medium-sized grant would be a bit of a better fit. But again, like I said, it'd have to be a very strong, that was a definite community need for the project. It'd have to be up to REBA stage 4 to be with plans and everything in place. But if you did need some support with developing your plans further, we do something called a capital development grant. That is up to 50k, but depending on how much the project is worth. So I think it's 10% of the full project cost that we'd help towards plans and anything that you'd need in that respect. But yeah, as I said, it's just the go on, sorry.
Yeah, as I said, the plans are done. We've already got through the council, and they've said yes, no problem. You can have we've got the planning permission to do it. The only thing that we are a bit annoyed with the council is, first of all, they said they'd give us 50 grand, and now they've taken that off us. And then they said we can go through the cabinet, and then that got taken off us. So at the moment, we're in a bypass at the moment of trying to get things sorted in many ways. And I'm not very good with Zoom and what. I'd rather talk to people face to face than Zoom. So this is my first attempt. So I'm hoping I'm doing okay.
No, that's fine. Yes, perfect. More than happy to help and answer questions over Zoom, and we know it's difficult for many organisations, but but everyone seemed to be working really well through it. But yeah, we can definitely, if you want to have a further conversation about developing the kind of the community element of the project, and then possibly as well waiting for what Sport Wales have coming up, and maybe join in both funding streams, then that could.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you ever so much.
Leighton, you'd never know it was your first time using Zoom. I've seen far worse attempts, so nothing to worry about at all. That I have to say, I've seen plenty of politicians make more mistakes than that. I can honestly say that. So the next person we've got is Andy. Andy Caris from Nanty Mall, who runs a great organisation from up at the top of the valley, supporting people across Bridgend, wants to ask a question for National Lottery Community Fund.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Andy, you're absolutely fine.
Fantastic, lovely. Yes, organiser of TEDx Nanty Mall. So I ran our first event last year, just, on my own, not part of a group or organisation. But in the hopes of kind of growing and repeating the event, we're hoping to set up an unincorporated association. So just a question for the National Lottery Community Fund or any of the other funders, whether that would enable us to access your funding streams.
Could I ask what type of event it is and what you want to do kind of going forward?
Yeah, certainly. So TED Talks, we kind of bring people together from the local community to share their ideas or share their stories. And then as well as having a live audience from within the community, they are filmed and shared on YouTube and on the TED website, available for people across the world. So from last year, we've had, I think 7,000 people have watched one of our talks, between 1,000 and 7,000 have watched all of the talks. And there's a theme for each event. So last year it was 2020 vision. So we had people talking about autism awareness, mental health, kind of leadership, entrepreneurship, disability. But it would be different people and different kind of community groups getting the chance to share their stories and inspire others in the community.
Yeah, great. It sounds really positive as a project. You probably want to come in to begin with for an Awards for All project, which is up to £10,000. With that one, you just have to answer at least one of our funding priorities, which are available online. You can also apply online, and just make sure that you've spoken to people in the community so you can provide some information that it's kind of needed by the people that you'd be supporting. So we'd ask for it to be kind of a series of events or some workshops leading up to a series of events. So it's just more than a one-off event. But yeah, it sounds really positive and quite interesting.
No, perfect. Yeah, so part of the process is to kind of provide the speakers with the opportunity to develop public speaking skills. And also we're hoping to run, they call them TEDx salons, so the chance for people to come from the community and watch pre-recorded TED Talks from the website and then have kind of group discussions and debates about what we found. So yeah, we want it to be a regular part of the community. So yeah, really good.
That sounds like a good fit. Again, if you want to speak more directly, then drop me a line, or if you find everything on the website, then you're more than welcome to apply.
Are you able to put your contact details in the chat? Or
yeah, that's fine.
Lovely, thank you very much.
No problem.
And we'll make sure as well, Andy, that we get everything shared as we're going along at the end of the session as well. So if anything's missed, this applies to anybody. If anyone misses a contact, we'll make sure we share that, and you can get in touch with mine or Hugh's office teams as well. And Andy, nice to see you as well.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So next question is from Emily, who is hopefully with us. Emily Evans.
I'm here.
There we go. Hello, nice to see you. Go on. Hi.
It's a really simple question for Sports Wales. I run I don't run it, that's a lie. My State Canoe Club. We did get the Be Active Fund last year. If you've applied for it once, can you apply for it again?
Hi, Emily. So you can apply one application per financial year. So as long as it was in 2020, your last application, then you could apply. One thing we do say is we like the projects to either be really different, so we can see if there's something different going on, or you need to really evidence the need of, if you were maybe applying for similar things, just really evidence and tell Sport Wales why you need it and the difference it's going to make, because we do get some clubs that come back into the same thing year after year, and we want to actually see the difference it's making long term. But yeah, you could put one in again.
Okay, I think what it is, my husband came, we've got a 2-year-old now and he loves the water. So I think we're going to try and branch into maybe a toddler canoeing session, maybe not as young as 2, but I think that's what we're aiming for, because he loves the water, and what we've achieved as a club so far, we want to kind of bring younger children into it now as well.
Yeah, and I know Rich has popped our email in the chat, so if you've got any ideas and you wanted to maybe just pop them across to us in an email, then hopefully we can get back to you as soon as we can then and let you know.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
No worries.
Lovely. Thanks, Emily. And I'm a bit surprised that the little one's now 2, I have to say. But I remember before he was born. So we've got Brendan and Edward in this last round of questions because we've got to get the next set of presentations at 1 o'clock. And obviously we will try and then there's more Q&As as we go along. So if any of the funders in the next rounds or the 6 that are spoken now, we can get those questions in. But if you haven't been able to get your question asked, please drop it in the chat and we'll make sure we pass on those questions to the different funders as well. So the next one then is Brendan.
Hi guys. Basically we're a football club, Llangynor Football Club here. But we've got a clubhouse, which we have a function room, which is used by the whole community. There's birthday parties, the primary school use it, there's baby showers, we've got a memorial coming up. But the problem we've got with it is, because we've been shut down for over a year, basically it's degraded, the mold has gotten hold of it, the carpets have started to turn. A lot of the seats, we've tried to scrub and clean it as much as we can. The local members, the community, we've been collecting to try and get enough to replace everything, but we're still falling far short of what we need. Is there funding available to us that we can get this back safe for the kids to come in again?
Sports Wales, I'm guessing, maybe not. I don't know. I don't want to sort of jump on anybody who wants to come back on that.
We don't mind going first.
Okay, sorry, Richard. I'm sort of jumping on you, aren't I? Sorry.
Oh, it's all right. Sorry. It's similar to the previous answer, to be honest, Brendan. It's not something we would currently look at with our current funding. It's very much what we focus on is getting people active and directly impacting on the sport. But again, it's similar to what we said before. It's watch this space, and there might be something over the next few months that we launch that might be able to help you with your clubhouse and stuff. But at the moment, it's a no. But like I said before, just watch this space.
Yeah, and it's the same sort of answer as well from me as well. If you can, we do have a lot of football clubs, rugby clubs, cricket clubs, all types of sport clubs coming to us to want to develop their buildings. Some are successful, but they have to have a very, very strong community focus, and for it not just necessarily to be about the people who use that club for those particular sports as such. But yeah, if you can demonstrate that through your consultation with your community, and you can strongly answer one of the priorities that are on our website, especially through the Awards for All funding, then you're definitely in with a chance. If you're more than happy to give it a go, then great, or you can contact me for some more information. Also as well, in Wales, through the Awards for All scheme, we do offer bespoke feedback to people, even if they're not successful, and you can also reapply again once you've maybe done more consultation if it's needed, or if you've re-looked at your project and can answer some of the other priorities a bit stronger. But yeah, definitely worth having a look at the website, seeing if you can meet the priorities quite strongly, and then sending off an application.
Like I said, the room itself, the function room, is nothing to do with the sports side of things. It is just a room which everybody uses all the time. But like I said, at the moment, we're not happy with letting people and children in there.
Yeah, that's fine. You just have to try and prove to us through the amount of people you speak to that building is actually important to the whole community. So, you could tell us, for example, in an application that you've spoken to such and such people and what groups they come from, why they use the building, but there's nothing else available in the surrounding area that's accessible to them, and that it's, aside from being a sporting venue, it's more than just that. It's more of a community venue, like you're saying. So yeah, you're more than happy to, if you want to give it a go, that's fine. But again, we are a very competitive funder, so I just don't want anybody to get their hopes up too much. But it's definitely worth either having a chat or seeing if you meet our priorities strongly enough after you've spoken to your community with consultation and can tell us about the need.
Okie doke.
Okay.
And Brenda, just to say, if Hugh and I can come up and meet with you and try and help in any way, particularly with liaising with the council as well, anything like that we can help with, then please give us a shout. We both know the club and the work that you do there, or rather the engagement that goes on there. We've used it ourselves actually some years ago. So I mean, if we can help in any way, including coming up for a chat to try and open some doors, then we're very happy to do that. Just drop us an email, and we'll be welcome on a Friday or Saturday. That would be great.
Yeah, more than welcome, Chris.
Lovely. That would be great. I've got Edward for the last question this round. I'm very aware that David Williams from Ogmore Valley Mill Voice has also asked a question about access, and I can see Sian has very helpfully put some information in there. And David, we will make sure we try and get you a question in the next round if we can, but I'm just conscious of trying to stick to time. So if I hand over to Edward, who had a question.
Hi, I'm from the Aberkenvig Boys and Girls Club, and I have a question really for Sports Wales. We have a pitch absolutely right by the river, and we have a problem with footballs going into the river on a regular basis and losing them. The solution for this is to build a high fence. Now, is that the sort of thing you would help us fund, or equally a cage for storing our equipment? Is that the sort of thing you might fund?
It's not, unfortunately, Edward. Our best advice would be to contact the FAW Trust and your regional officer to have a chat with them and see what they can do. We wouldn't build a fence or a net for you. And in terms of storage, we would only consider supporting storage if you were purchasing new or additional equipment, because then it would protect the investment. But for current stock of equipment, we wouldn't purchase the storage, as the responsibility would be on the club to be storing that already. So your best bet is to have a chat with the FAW Trust on it, and they should be able to support you with that.
Okay, thank you very much for your advice. Thank you.
Thanks, Edward. Thanks very much. I'm going to hand over now to Hugh, whose tech issues have hopefully been resolved. In fact, I'm sure they have. And Hugh's going to introduce the next three organisations that are here today for another Q&A. Over to you, Hugh.
Thanks, Chris. And the first hour of this has absolutely flown past. I hope that some of the questions and the answers have probably helped others who are on this call as well, who may have wanted to ask the same questions. And I've made a note as well, David, we're going to come back to you at the start of the next Q&A session as well, whether your question is for the three that we're going to hear from now, or whether it's for the others that we've already heard from. So stay on the line as well. So we're going to hear now from three organisations that have really strong links within the community and have done a lot of organisation around funding, as well as funding projects or joint funding projects themselves. So we're going to start first of all with BAVO, or as was just texted to me in the background in a misprint or a predictive text, BABE. So I think I'm going to call BAVO BABE from now on. And if I'm correct, we've got Claire from BAVO on here, Bridgend Association Voluntary Organisations. Claire, over to you.
Good afternoon. I think I quite like BABE. That sounds quite nice. Yeah, I'm one of the three development officers that work for BAVO. As he says in the funding booklet, we help organisations with fundraising, which includes grant applications. But what we tend to find is a lot of organisations come to us asking about funding, but we do an awful lot more work around getting organisations in a position that they are ready to apply for funding. So, for example, if a few people had got together at the early stages, we would help an organisation to look at a constitution, look at their legal structure, consider how they want to set up. With many new groups as well, we can help them look at policies and procedures. to make sure that they've got the right things in place, because a lot of funders will ask for policies such as safeguarding policy or equal opportunities policy, Welsh language policy, those sort of things. And we have lots of draft policies that we can work with you with to develop. We also help organisations that want to go down a more formal route. So, for example, we're working with a number of organisations at the moment that are registering as charitable incorporated organisations or community interest companies. And we'll help them to get the constitution and to go through the registration process with that. On top of that, we have a project which helps organisations link up with people who are interested in volunteering. So if an organisation needed more volunteers to take their work forward, we can actually link them up to register for more volunteers. And we also have a project called Link Up, which will support new trustees. So that's a training project, and also it provides a peer mentoring service as well. So you can get individual support from somebody who is already experienced in being a trustee. I know there's a lot of organisations on here today that are already members of BARVO. I recognise quite a few of the organisations on here, and we're already working with those. If you're not already a member, please drop me a line. I'll put my email in the chat. You can become a member of BARVO. It's free. There's no cost to do that. Sign up to our mailing list, and basically we will keep you up to date with any funds that are opening up. BARVO also manages a few funds, and we will let you know if we've got any grant funds opening up. But as I said, you know, there's lots of other things that we actually provide support on. We deal with all manner of queries relating to third sector organisations. So if you're not sure, just drop us a line, and we can either support you or we can point you to somebody who can support you. Thank you very much.
Claire, that's brilliant. More than just funding. It's all the wider support and all the building around legal structures, constitutions, member support, trustee support. And that for a lot of started off groups, I know is very, very important indeed. So hopefully we'll have some questions after this few presentations on that as well. And now we're going to go to the Coalfields Regeneration Trust, another funder that's got really strong links with these valleys and with this constituency. And I think, if I'm right, we've got Natalie on the line here to take over and give us your presentation, Natalie.
Yes, that's right. Thank you very much. So I'm Natalie Sargent, Development Officer with the Coalfields Regeneration Trust. Our role is to help strengthen former coalfield communities in Wales. We do have a number of priority areas. And in Bridgend, these are sort of the northern part of the borough. So it's Betws, Blackmill, Blaengarw, Caira, Llangaina, Maesteg, Nantymoel, Ogmore Vale, Pontycymer and Ynys Awdra. But although these are our priority areas, if you do have an activity which takes place outside of these areas, but your beneficiaries are from these communities, then you may be eligible for support, because for us, it's not necessarily about where you're based, but who the beneficiaries are. So yes, please do get in touch. We do have 2 grants currently available. We've got our Game on Gear grant and our Coalfields Community Grant Programme. The aim of the Game on Gear grant is to get more young people aged 13 to 19 from Welsh coalfield communities to play sport. We fund a sports kit to a maximum value of £500, and it's a rolling programme with no deadline for applications. New or existing community affiliated sports clubs with an appropriate governing document and community bank account are welcome to apply. We've just got one simple application form, and it typically takes around 20 working days from submitting an application to receiving a decision. If approved, clubs will be referred to one of our preferred suppliers to make the necessary arrangements. And should your requirements exceed £500, this isn't an issue. You just need to pay the balance due to the supplier before collection. Our main grant, which is the one most people would know us for, is the Coalfields Community Grant, which is funded through Welsh Government. We can award grants from £500 up to £7,000, which have clear, positive and measurable outcomes. It can be flexible, so that could be capital or revenue or a mixture of the two. We can fund 100% of the project costs, or it can be used as match funding for larger funds, providing that the overall cost of the project doesn't exceed £100,000. Our priority is on smaller projects. The themes, in order to be eligible, we have job creation and employment support, skills and training, social enterprise development and community buildings. And we also have cross-cutting themes, tackling poverty, health and well-being, and the environment. We'll only fund organisations with an appropriate governing document. I know that's been talked about a lot today, which can clearly demonstrate that their project will benefit people living in eligible coalfields areas. And much like the lottery, your beneficiaries must be wider than your organisation's own members. Eligible costs include refurbishment costs, property improvements and energy efficiency measures, equipment, training, promotional material, new activities, services or products for social enterprises. We can fund staff costs for new or existing posts. We are a living wage funder, so we would expect staff wages to be at the living wage rate. And if you're not able to do this, please do discuss it with us before you complete the application. Organisations which aren't eligible, you wouldn't be eligible if we funded you within the last 12 months. Or if your unrestricted income is over 250,000 a year. We can't fund individuals, private businesses, statutory bodies, parish or town and community councils, national organisations without separate governance in Wales, organisations which we believe are in a poor financial position, and projects set up to promote political or religious beliefs. There are some costs which aren't eligible. Retrospective, we can't do pensions, day trips. We can't actually fund the development of bar areas. Pathways and car parks are also ineligible. We are also unable to fund anything we've previously funded for your organisation, or an activity that would be classed as statutory provision. We've got a two-stage process. So our inquiry form, what we would recommend is that you contact us prior to completing. Once you submit this with a copy of your governing document and your latest set of accounts, a decision will be made within 10 working days, or we may need to contact you for further information. You'll then be invited to a full application stage, which is approximately an 8 to 12 week turnaround. We've got 4 decision panels a year. Payment is usually 2 weeks after a decision, and providing all the relevant terms and conditions have been met. Successful applications must be able to demonstrate clear community need and impact, priority area, that the outputs offer value for money, that there's a clear need for investment. A good project would be sustainable both for the project and for the organisation. We'd also be looking at strong governance and financial management experience, and low risk to us. If, for instance, if you've got all the match funding in place, your permissions, etc., if it's a capital project, or if you were running a training project, for example, that all your referral links are in place. Funding is I know we're here to discuss funding. It is a small part of our role. We provide a lot of development support. We can provide investment from our own and other sources, support to develop solutions, particularly around safeguarding community facilities and services, support for grassroots community activity and connections to partner organisations and other services. We also deliver some contracts such as Renew Wales, and community asset transfer contracts in Bridgend. My contact details are in the information that's been sent, and I'll pop a link for our website in the chat box. Okay, thank you very much.
That is brilliant. Thank you very much, Natalie. Very much indeed. We're going to go to one final presentation now in this little batch here before we go to questions. And that's from the Wales Cooperative Centre, which some of you will have probably come across before and had support from before. And I think we're going to Hannah.
Yep, thanks, Hugh. Hi, everyone. My name's Hannah and I'm from the Wales Co-op, and I'm part of the Community Shares team. A little bit different to everybody else here today. I haven't actually got a grant funding pot available to people. But in terms of the community shares, it is a way of communities raising money and financing a project. The Community Shares Wales project works across Wales. We support organisations or people and communities that want to save a local asset. So it could be, you might have heard on the news, local shops being saved by a community, local pubs, renewable energy developments, transforming community facilities, buying a sports club. There's a whole range of choices out there for people. Unfortunately, there's a lot that require a lot of finance, but community shares is where the community invest and take over that asset. It's a form of crowdfunding, but rather than a donation, you actually have that ownership of that asset. And that means that the community own and can shape that asset, so they know and have a say in how their scheme is run. Everybody has an equal vote, so it's very democratic. And in some instances, depending on the level of investment, they can even make a small return on their investment as well. People's investments can be anything from a community deciding that everyone's going to pay £10 as a minimum to be a part of the project, going right up to, you know, whatever a community thinks would be the best way. It's a brilliant way of providing match funding. We've heard today from people such as the National Lottery, and it's a brilliant way of ensuring that, one, you're demonstrating community engagement, because obviously the community are behind you and they're investing, but also, you know, I've heard people say that some of the money they want and need is excessive. It is quite a lot of money, and this is a way of helping to get onto that funding mix. It's a really good way of, as I've said, investment. You have to have a particular type of governance, but the Community Shares Wales team provide a whole host of support. The support's really bespoke because every community is very different and every project's very different. But essentially, we can do anything from scoping out, is it possible, right through to running the share offer and support, ongoing support after the share offer has happened. As I said, it's quite straightforward, but I'm not going to underestimate. There is obviously a lot of work there to get the community behind the idea, but it's a brilliant way, especially if it's something that maybe funders are a little bit hesitant to fund. Perhaps it's a bit new, or perhaps it doesn't fall into some criteria that that they need you to fulfill. So it can be a great way of funding something a little bit different. And also, you know, it's great for communities to secure an asset for the future. At the moment, we're supporting various projects. At the moment, we're currently supporting nature reserves and wetlands in some areas. We've got community pubs, community farms, community hubs, community zero waste shops, community energy, electric car vehicles. There's a whole host of pilot projects at the moment. I'll pop my details in the chat, and if anyone wants to get in touch just to start the ball rolling or to think about something, then please don't hesitate to get in touch. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Hannah. And you can see that all of our presenters are putting their information in the chat box as well. So if you want to follow this up after this, or you don't want to ask something in the Q&A, but you want to follow it up subsequently, then you can do that. The contacts are going in there. So thanks very much, the presenters, for that. Now, I said at the start of this session, we got a few questions coming in. I wanted to go back to David first of all, and I can see, David, you put some stuff in the chat box there about funding for accessibility. Now, the venue you've got for the Ogmore Valley Maidwells Choir is a spectacular venue, but crikey, the steps going up and the steps going down and so on. So David, if you're on the line, can I ask you to come in and put your question?
Yes, thank you. I belong to Ogmore Valley Maidwells Choir, and we have, can you hear me? I can't. Yeah. We use our own chapel, which we maintain ourselves and have maintained for many, many years. We use it for choir practices, and also we use it for concerts where we raise money for charities and the like. Now, by the nature of the choir members are all getting fairly ancient, but so with all due respect, are a lot of the people who come to visit us on our concerts. We have a major problem, a serious problem, I think, in the safety of people coming into the chapel and of course going out from the chapel. The steps, the front steps on the chapel are very, very steep. And this is the steps to the first floor. We also have access to the ground floor, and then access from the ground floor to the first floor is by way of a very, very slow stair lift. So we have a problem. We have spoken some time back about getting a ramp installed, but as the steps go directly onto the main road, or the pavement on the main road, I think the access of the design of the ramp has to be professionally done, and we really need some help in doing this. Anyone, any idea where we can get this help?
Thanks, David. Now, I think Sean put a suggestion there in the chat box, but Sean, do you want to respond first of all, whether it's you or whether it's somebody else you could perhaps signpost to? Hi, Sean, I heard you there.
Oops.
Sean, it sounds like we might have some interference there. Are you unmuted?
Hugh, can I ask another question while we're trying to get through Sean?
Yes, go on, David.
One of the other problems we've got with the chapel is there were a phenomenal number of windows, and we're losing tremendous amount of heat, and it costing us a lot of money. And we're looking to get funding for either a secondary glazing or curtains, drapes. That's the other problem we've got.
Okay, brilliant. If we can't get Sean back in at the moment, do we have any of our other funders? Or Sean, is that you? You come in and go in. I can't hear you clearly there. But while we're waiting, do any of the other funders or Bavo perhaps have any thoughts on this?
Hi, it's Claire from Bavo. If David would like to contact us, we'll definitely do some work with you to have a look at some funding. You can do some searches on a website called Funding Cymru, register on there, and you can search for different funding streams that might meet your needs. But if you'd like to get in contact, we certainly help you to do that and have a look for some appropriate funding streams.
Well, thank you very much, Claire.
Just down the main road, Jen, tell where you go in. Yeah.
Now, Sean, is that you back with us?
It's not, you shouldn't go through it on your own now. This is not safe, love.
Okay, I can hear somebody on this. Somebody's got their microphone unmuted, but I'm not sure who it is. Could I, David, we might come back if we can get Sean in a moment, but meanwhile, while we're waiting, we're going to go to two similar questions here, which have come in the chat box from Bethan and also from Anne. And I think they're probably towards Natalie with the Coalfields Regeneration Trust. So Bethan, if you're on the line, do you want to ask your question about where funding is targeted geographically?
Yes, hello everyone. I was just wondering whether Llanharan was one of the priority areas and whether you would support an application from a primary school, because we've got a number of projects that I'd be interested in discussing with you. Thank you.
Good news and bad. Good news and bad news. Good news is you're in an eligible area. Bad news is the primary school element. So it would depend on, so we can't fund anything that's would be classed as statutory provision. So if it was an activity that took place outside of school hours and was voluntary for people to participate in, that would be different, but the main applicant wouldn't be able to be a statutory body. So because our fund is Welsh Government funding, it's, there are other sources to go to in terms of funding for schools. So depends on the project and whether or not it would be classed as statutory provision. So,
well, thank you very much, Diolch.
Thank you very much, Bethan. And if we could go to Anne now as well, if you're still on the line. Anne, I wonder if you're there, because you had a similar question to do with whether or not I understand Brunner was within the geographic territory of Coalfield.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
We've been to a number of these meetings, and the last one I went to was in my stake, and it seemed to cover not our area at all, Bridgend area mostly. We have at the moment ongoing problems with the hall, because I'm in the middle of had funding already, grants already that we've been doing at the hall because of the damp issue and etc. And I need some more just to finish off this project, so that once we come back from COVID, the old age pensioners are able to come back to the hall, and also it's open then for hire, so we can get a bit of money in. But I just wondered if I'm just waiting to hear if it's possible to get any money from anywhere, rather than sit here and it doesn't belong to this area at all. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne. Well, look, shall we start with putting that question to Natalie with the Coalfields Regeneration Trust, just to see whether you're within the area and that's the sort of thing that they fund, and then we'll open it up to the other funders then. So, okay. Natalie?
Yeah, so definitely, Anne, so you're an eligible area, so Brunner would be an eligible area. So that is not an issue at all in terms of your eligibility. The problem we might have, community facilities are definitely one of our priority areas as well, and safeguarding community assets. The only issue may be wider community use. So is the hall used by other community groups, or, how often is it used? How many, that's the main question really, in terms that would be our priority, that it's wider than the group's own members.
Right. Well, it is, can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is available to whoever wants to hire the hall. Obviously, it is an old age pensioners hall belonging to the Brunner community, basically started 1954, something like that, belongs to them entirely. We have the hall, we own it, everything. It's just that it's so old, as David said in his all about the church and everything, it needed a lot of undertaking to keep it up to scratch. So we're sort of halfway through doing everything, and COVID hit, and we still need a bit more money. So I just need to get some money from somewhere to finish off.
More than happy to have a chat with you outside of this if you wanted to. You can fill out an inquiry form and then we come back to you with feedback. We will never say no. What we will say is it may not be suitable, or you may need to do extra things to strengthen your application. Right. But we can signpost you to other funders as well. So by all means, if you're happy, I've put my contact details in the chat box, but if you're happy to share your contact details, perhaps with Kath, and who can forward them on to me, I'll pick it up after this event.
It's the similar sort of thing to David, because we need the steps done so that they can put their wheelies up the steps rather than clamber up the steps. But if we need an architect or something to look at stuff like that, which is all going to cost. So, okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Anne, thank you very much for that question. I hope that was helpful, and you may want to follow that up then subsequently as well. And we're going to go now to, we're keeping Natalie busy, because Alex has got a question for you as well, Natalie.
Okay.
Hi, I do apologize. I thought it was quite grumpy, so she's crying at me right now, but I just wanted to know, we're very much, what we do is very much in the sort of cost cutting and tackling poverty sort of bracket. But our beneficiaries are across the entire of sort of BCBC and beyond, really. Are there any sort of percentages you'd be looking for? Is there any best way for us to show you that the people in the Coalfields area also benefit massively from what we do?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine, and we have done it. There's been organisations in the centre of Bridgend which aren't an eligible area for us, but their beneficiaries are wider. Obviously, it's harder for you to demonstrate, and you would have to evidence that you were reaching those communities, perhaps advertising your services in those communities, that type of approach. Typically, what we do is if you wanted to get a percentage basis, if your project was worth £100,000, and you were coming into us, and 50% of your beneficiaries were within the Coalfield community, then probably our grant, we'd probably be looking at 50% as a maximum. So that's a very broad brush approach, but yeah, we would definitely recommend you just come into us, have a chat, and we can see from there as well. Also, and this is probably relevant for David as well, is that I'm also a coordinator with Renew Wales. So in terms of energy, anything that tackles climate change, and I believe you're a baby clothes swap shop, so there's other support that we can perhaps lever in for that. And with David, energy efficiency in your community building, that might be something that we could look at getting somebody in to support you in terms of helping guide you in terms of what's best for your building, and particularly if it's an old building, there may be some sort of restrictions in terms of building materials, etc. So we can help support with that.
Yeah, I'd definitely be interested in discussing it with you further. I mean, we've got sort of future plans to make what we do more mobile as well. So there is the chance that we're going to take what we do now centrally and have little sort of offshoots of it. So I mean, we could potentially look to speak to you about projects in the Coalfield area specifically.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, well, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Alex.
Okay, that's brilliant. Well, look, thank you for that. We're moving on to our final session of presentations now. And just before we do, thanks to those presenters in that session, don't forget, for everybody who's on the call, there are some real innovative approaches here, including what you heard from the Wales Cooperative Centre with the community share model about how to secure assets for the local community, you know, the last pub in the village, a community shop and so on. So there are different models as well about trying to preserve community assets before they disappear entirely. And don't forget people like Bavo there with Claire as well, because of their all-encompassing role in helping support and develop the organization that you come from, to make sure that you're in a position that you're ready to apply for grants as well. So there's been some good messages as well, by the way, posted, some additional helpful thoughts and contacts from some of our funders. So please do keep an eye on that. Now we're going to move to that final session here, because the time is flying away from us. And we've got two presentations here to kick us off into this. Firstly, the Wales Church Act with BCBC colleagues presenting on that, and then Western Power Distribution. And again, what we're seeing here is this is a sample of the wide variety of funding options that there are out there, some of which will work in partnership as well to try and make the funding application you want to work, the scheme that you want to work, actually get off the ground. So we're going to head across to hear about the Wales Church Act first of all. So now I'm not sure who's presenting on this, but please just jump in.
Thanks, Hugh. I'm Kate Atkin from Bridgend Council. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the Welsh Church Act Fund. The fund is actually administered by RCT Council on behalf of Bridgend, RCT and Merthyr. So I apologise, I might not be the best person to answer questions on the fund. Rebecca and Esther from RCT usually attend the event every year, but they couldn't make it today. So I'll give the information I can, but I may need to refer people on just to contact RCT directly for further details. So the Welsh Church Act Fund is an independent charitable trust. It's available to churches, chapels, places of public worship, and constituted community groups. So despite the name, it isn't just for churches. It's open to constituted community groups or charities if they have a bank account set up in the organisation's name. The organisation must work in the county boroughs of Bridgend, RCT or Merthyr, and be providing activities that have a long-term direct benefit to residents and communities in these areas. The facilities or activities provided by your organisation need to be available to members of the public at large. There are some exclusions for organisations, and one of the big ones is you can't apply if you have an alcohol licence, or if your organisation profits or benefits from the sale of alcohol. So even temporary licences and things like that could exclude you. Anyone operating from a residential address, or it's not open to statutory bodies, including town and community councils. The Welsh Church Act Fund is a capital fund. It provides things like refurbishment of community buildings or places of worship, can be used to purchase capital equipment as long as the items are over £50 and there's a maximum of 10 per application, and other purposes beneficial to the wider community. So again, it'd be worth speaking to the team in RCT to discuss your ideas. There's no set bidding rounds. Applications can be submitted at any time. It's a rolling programme, and there's no limit to the number of applications you can submit per year. The only limit is that you can have one application in at any one time. So once your project is fully complete, you'd be free then to apply again for something else. The fund is split into 3 categories: small, medium and large grants. Small grants are up to £2,000 and they will pay 100% of the cost. There's no match funding needed for those. The medium grants then go up to £10,000 and there is a requirement for 10% contribution match funded. And lastly, the large or significant projects, they will pay up to 80% of the total cost. So you need to provide 20% match funding and they go up to a maximum of £50,000. With the significant projects in particular, you need to show that your organisation is going to be providing new or expanded services. So rather than just like lots of repairs and things like that wouldn't fall under the significant applications. They need to be providing added value and not be solely for continuing existing activity. I think I've covered most things there. There are some other exclusions, things like they won't cover retrospective costs, can't be used for statutory applications, things like planning applications and that kind of thing, but most capital costs would be fine. As I've already said, it's the girls in RCT, Rebecca and Esther, who administer the fund. So their contact details are in the brochure and I can put them in the chat as well. I'm also happy to share my details if anybody wants to contact me. The way it works with them administering the fund is if once they receive a fully complete application, as part of the assessment process, they would then contact me to run some checks and provide comments from BCBC over things like planning requirements. So you're welcome to contact us while you're developing your application if you want to any advice on things like that along the way. But the main contact would be RCT and they will issue application forms and advise you on whether your project is suitable before you submit something as well. Thank you.
Kate, that's brilliant. Thank you very much for that. I'm sure we'll have some questions there as well, but we'll go now for our last presentation. And by way of contrast as well, to show the range of funders that are out there, funding options, we're going to go to Western Power. And I think, Tracy, you're going to give us your presentation now.
Yes, hello everyone. My name's Tracy Cullen. I'm the Social Obligations Officer for Western Power. I work with Karen Welsh, who's the Corporate Community Officer, who normally attends this meeting. So apologies from Karen that she couldn't make it today, but I'm really pleased to be here on her behalf. So our role is really to work with partners and communities to support both individuals or communities, particularly those who may be at risk of fuel poverty. We also work with partners and communities to promote the Priority Services Register to those individuals who might be eligible for direct support or be vulnerable during a power cut. We manage a number of community funding schemes that support 5 key objectives, and I'll go through those in a little more detail, but and also circulate some additional information and a slide deck after the event. And please, if anyone does want any further information, please contact me afterwards. An example, I suppose, of the type of community funding and support that we'll look at is something that we launched in direct response to the pandemic, which was In This Together Community Fund. Through this scheme, we've supported the launching of the scheme in 2020 to really help 871 separate charities, community groups and local authorities across all regions, which has gone on to benefit 565,000 people. So that's one of the real big schemes that we've launched. I know the energy industry can seem quite complicated in terms of roles and responsibilities, but really Western Power is responsible for the electric network. So it's not an energy supplier. I think that's really an important point to just pull out. It's more the network and equipment that we're responsible for. We provide a community fund in which we'll consider applications which may range from 100,000 to 3,000. Each application will be considered depending on the type of project or event, the number of people are benefiting from. Certain other factors are also taken into account, so that will help us determine the level of funding that we can award. I mentioned about the 5 sort of core areas that we sort of assess the schemes on. Primarily is obviously benefits around the environment or low carbon, so reducing carbon emissions and energy to support a more sustainable future as we move to net zero. Vulnerability, so particularly helping those who need most help, essentially those who may be classed as vulnerable and be particularly vulnerable, as I mentioned, in a power cut. Education and STEM, so encouraging more participation in science and technology, engineering and maths, and the future career opportunities, which we're particularly passionate about, obviously being an engineering business. Safety, again, encouraging people to stay safe around electricity and also when carrying out leisure activities around the network. And then finally, just diversity in terms of encouraging and promoting diverse programs and inclusivity for everyone. So who can apply for the funding? Community groups, registered charities, non-profit organisations or CICs, community interest companies. That's really a whistle-stop tour of what's available. And as I said, I'll put my details in the chat. Karen, who normally attends the meetings, also offered, to be a contact for further support. And there will be a slide deck attached or circulated after the event for everyone to have a look through. So thanks for the invite. And it's been really interesting, actually, to hear of all the different funding schemes that are available. Thank you.
Hello. Tracy, thank you. That's really fantastic. Hello. I think we got somebody who hasn't got the mute button on, but that's really fantastic. And I think one of the benefits of these sessions are the variety of funders on here. And it's not everybody, but it's a really good sample. And I said you were going to be the last one, but you aren't. Because I've just been told everybody on this call can regard this as the icing on the cake. There is one more final presentation there, really worth hearing from. And it's from the WCVA, from Eleanor. So Eleanor, we're all yours, and apologies for missing you off earlier on.
I don't know if I'm going to be the icing on the cake, but I'll try my best. Thank you ever so much for allowing us to come along today to speak. I've got 2 big things to tell you about. WCVA were really pleased that earlier this week, the First Minister, Mark Drakeford, has announced that we have just been awarded a further £2 million worth of grant funding specifically for the third sector for a 3rd round of the Third Sector Resilience Fund in Wales. In relation to that, it will initially offer over £2 million worth of additional grant funding, mainly revenue funding. So, okay, I'm reading it from a right-hand screen, so please bear with me. It's literally hot off the press. In relation to this, there will be 2 phases associated to this funding. One called Survive, which is acknowledging for some the impact of COVID-19, and we're still looking to see what impact that's had on their organisation. And the other strand will be Thrive, which is for organisations looking to develop and improve their resilience as they recover from the impact of the pandemic. Now, as I said, this is literally hot off the press. It was announced on Monday. So the details of this round of funding are still to be finalised, and an announcement of the scheme and how organisations can apply for the funding will be made very shortly. If you wish to register your interest and be notified when the fund goes live, you need to email sic@wcva.cymru, and I will put that in the chat for you, and I'll say it again: S for Sierra, I for Indigo, C for Charlie, @wcva.cymru. I'm not directly involved in that fund. I'm actually the performance and support manager for our Active Inclusion Fund, which is a European funded project. And coincidentally, the last round of eligibility questionnaires, which is the first step to applying for that funding, opened yesterday. And if any of you were interested in applying for that funding, you have up until the 16th of July to submit the first stage application process. We don't need to know in that what you're actually wanting to do with the money. We need to find out about you as an organisation. That form is available on the multi-application portal, or the WCVA map system. If you put WCVA map into a Google search, it will come up for you, and it talks you through the process and what you need to do. In relation to this, it is a European funded project. We are going to be releasing a new round of funding on the 1st of August. If any of you are already on our approved beneficiary list, and looking at the list of attendees, I can see that some of you already are, that will be released for you on the 1st of August. And if any of you are not on there, but would like to be, as I said, you have until the 16th of July. Active Inclusion offers up to £1.5 million worth of funding per organisation. There are two strands of funding. Strand 1, which is an early intervention programme, offering the organisations to work with adults and young people furthest from the job market, to offer them basic training. It could be confidence building, it can be anything. It's a wide range of activities. We've had some people involved in building sustainable housing. We've had other people doing more basic classroom work. It depends what the project offers. Strand 2 offers paid placements, and those paid placements can be for young people aged 16 to 24, or for adults 25 plus. And in relation to that, the placements are either of 16 or 26 weeks. As I said, the next round of funding for this goes live on August the 1st. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much indeed. Really, really appreciate you joining us and giving this update. Really do appreciate it. Have we got, sorry, have we got any questions for anybody now? For anyone who's still here in terms of our funders, please let us know and we'll call you in. So either raising the virtual hand or popping a note in the chat box. Has anyone got any questions they'd like to ask? Or not, as the case may be. But we have had an awful lot of presentations today, and a great many number of questions which have hopefully all been answered as thoroughly as we can. Just want to make sure nobody has put their virtual hand up. I'll just check the people that are here, and this is something appeared in the chat. Thank you, Eleanor, for the link as well. That's really appreciated. If there isn't any more questions, what I'd like to do is to say thank you to all the funders that have come along today. It's hugely appreciated for their time in coming to speak to constituents. And what you would have seen today is we had people from Llanharan and Brynner, and then all the way across in Nantymol in the Ogmore Valley, to people in the Garw Valley, and people in Maesteg and Caira and Aberkenfig as well. So the real breadth of the Ogmore constituency today, which is what mine and Hugh's focus is as the MP at MS, is to make sure that we work with as many community groups, with schools, with rugby and football clubs. You know, we're an extremely proud constituency with many, many great people working right across our communities. And our real focus is to make sure that we get as much funding, I'll say that with the funders on the call, but as much funding into our communities as possible, because it's a really important part of mine and Hugh's roles as MP and MS. Can I thank everyone who's come along today from across the constituency. If you've not had the chance to ask a question, or if you think about something afterwards, please drop either me or Hugh an email. A lot of you would have been contacted by Kath in my team, who will be able to circulate any questions that you might have to the different funders, so please do that. If you've not signed up to our regular community funding update that goes out on email, please do, because that's a way in which we can let you know when funding becomes available from different organisations, not just the funders here today, but from all sorts of people that contact us as MP and MS to say, we've got some funding available, could you direct us to a group that might be able to access it? And we try and do that on a fairly regular basis. Please contact us if you think we can be a support. We've seen some groups today that Hugh and I can go along to meet with, engage with both RCT and BCBC if we need to, from the two councils' perspectives that cover the Ogmore constituency. And obviously, if we could just be supportive in terms of your own fundraising. You know, we've been actually to an event this morning up in Pontycymer, you know, where even if it's a raffle prize or actually going along to an event, please do ask. You know, we're really keen to do everything we can, particularly as we open up now post-pandemic. We know lots of organisations need support, and we're very keen to do that. I'm just going to check the chat one last time, but it's just lots of people saying thank you. Well, I'm very grateful for that. I know Hugh will be as well. So I'm just going to hand over to Hugh to say some last closing words, but thank you again from both of us. We really do appreciate everyone's time today.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, and just everything that Chris said, I won't repeat it, just I agree with everything there. We want to make sure that we get as much funding as possible coming into all the really excellent groups we have within the community and every part of the community in Ogmore. And in that, you'll have seen in the box there that links have been put in not only for BAVO, but also for Interlink as well in RCT. So if you're struggling to remember everything you've heard today, have a look in those boxes there or get in touch with Chris and me and we can provide that information to you. Just a couple of thanks from my side as well. If this has been helpful to you in terms of looking into if you're an established group that's really experienced with this, or a new small organization or individual that's thinking, how do I get something off the ground that'll help with my community or sports club or charity or whatever, I hope you found this helpful in terms of the deep waters of funding, but also knowing that there is support out there for you to help you to navigate those waters and swim successfully across them and get the funding you need. So use this as the opening the doors to some further discussions with the people you've heard from today and from others as well, because you've had a good sample today. There are more opportunities out there as well. Just want to thank Chris's team for helping organise this as well. They do all the preparation work on this and help us promote and advertise it as well. Tell other people to come along to the next one. Hopefully the next one, we might be able to see each other even face to face, if that can happen. But if not, hopefully back here doing a virtual one again. And my final thanks is to the mysterious Zach. There's a guy behind the scenes here, sitting in an office, probably somewhere in Cardiff, who helps us run some of the technology on this. And we couldn't do this virtual event without him. He helps us with many of our Facebook Live sessions as well. So Zach, in case anybody forgot to mention you, you are a hero as well. So Chris, in saying that, thanks to you as well for chairing this along with me. I hope everybody's enjoyed it. I'm going to hand back to you now for the last word.
Thanks, Hugh, and thanks to everyone that has come along today. Just one final word from me. Kath Sherrington in my team, who has been running the FADs now for 3 years, I think it is retiring in 2 weeks' time. So I just want to say a special thank you to Kath. This has been a labour of love, particularly this FAD, because it's all been virtual, been cancelled once and rearranged. So it's been a real process for her to go through. I don't think you and I have made any mistakes. I'm sure we'll be told shortly if we have. But a special thank you to Kath for all her work on this over the last 3 years. It's been a real, her baby that has grown very much over her time working in my team. So just a special thank you very much on the record to Kath. And other than that, wishing everyone a happy afternoon. Please get in touch if we can ever help. And hopefully next year, we'll see everybody in person for what is our usual funding advice day in around the beginning of March next year. So thanks very much, everyone. Take care.